All right, we're live from Los Angeles. Sorry about the delay. We had a little bit of a frost delay. That was a golf joke. This is a golf show. It's a great morning. The Chiefs got embarrassed really, really bad last night, and we have a live golf show. Welcome to Dan on Golf, the first of a show we're going to be doing every Monday. I want you to think of this as like an elevated 19th hole conversation. We're going to have guests, we're going to have interviews, we're going to have highlights, we're going to have debates. It's going to be a ton of fun. If you're watching this, you're a golf sicko. I'm a golf sicko. I can't wait to do this with you every single Monday. And we're going to jump right in. We're going to jump right in to the WM Phoenix Open, and what a performance that was from Thomas Detry. We're going to roll a few highlights here. What a tough back nine. I mean, he got to enjoy it at the end because he birdied the last 4 holes, but it really wasn't his tournament until the 16th hole. He had just seen Daniel Berger go a little bit long, and he did a little bit better than Berger did. Tap in. That's a dream on 16. Now you can pump up the crowd. Now the tournament is basically yours. A pair of 65s on the weekend. And look, he had Jordan Spieth breathing down his neck. Scotty made an appearance. It got tight there for a second, but the putter got hot. And Thomas Detry's been a player that people have had an eye on for a really long time. He was an awesome collegiate player from Illinois. You knew this was going in on 18. He was just feeling himself. Just a dream end, 65-65 on the weekend, a 7-shot win. The last time he won a tournament was 2016 on the Challenge Tour. He won that by 12. So I guess when this guy wins, he wins big. It was just, to win your first PGA Tour event in that kind of fashion, it proves something. A 7-shot win, and this was not a weak field. It's incredibly impressive stuff from Thomas Detry, who's now in a really good position to push for a Ryder Cup spot all the way up inside the top 25 in the world. And I am honored that we actually got to speak to Thomas Detry yesterday right after his win. Let's roll my interview with Thomas Detry. All right, we're joined by the latest winner on the PGA Tour, Thomas Detry. What a performance, dude. Birdied 15, 16, 17, and 18. I wanted to ask you, it's been a long time since you won a golf tournament on your own. I know you and Thomas won something together. Did you know that you had that in you? I mean, you were such a great player in college, but you talked about wanting to make a statement today. Did you ever doubt that you could produce it?
Yes, I did. I mean, to be honest, it's just human nature. I came so close so many times, and I felt sometimes not comfortable in those situations, almost kind of reluctant to be in those situations where I was like, I'm maybe never going to be able to do it. And this week was really great. Yesterday was yesterday was a big day, finishing that with 5-shot lead, that putt on 18, just the way everything went. A couple of tough tee shots out here. I really stepped up on it and committed to it. I'm just so proud of the way I handled everything this week, and yeah, getting that first win, it's incredible. My last win was 2016. I won by 12 shots, which is good on the Challenge Tour. That's right. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm really happy for you. Walk us through the emotions on 16. You hit, obviously the hole-in-ones are going to be shown forever, but I think your shot just entered the pantheon of shots on the 16th hole. What were you feeling walking through that tunnel? I know you got kind of a teach from Daniel Berger. Just tell us about that moment.
Yeah. I think those last couple of holes just before that was kind of a key moment during the round as well, during the tournament, because Daniel was kind of closing in. I felt it at 3-putted 13, and then he smoked one on 14. So I was like, this is not looking good now. Luckily, I was able to get a great up and down on 14 and smoked one on 15. So that birdie 15 was big. Just the arena on 16 is just nothing better, in my opinion. We need at least 1 or 2 more events like this on tour. I think it'd be really cool. There's just nothing like it, the noise and everything. And then I kind of had a perfect number. I went through my routine with my caddy, and we had I think we had 164 meters flag or something like that. And it was just
meters.
Down there. And to be honest, yeah, meters. Meters. Sorry, apologize for that.
No, it's good. Just threw me off there.
I was kind of trying to hit it to 10, 15 feet short, middle of the green. I knew I had a couple of shots ahead, so avoid any mistakes. Well, you saw both guys hit it long, and Rasmus made double, Daniel made a bogey, so I was and then the adrenaline kind of kicked in a little bit, and it looked so good in the air, in fairness. It looked never anywhere else.
It looked pretty good when it landed, too. The fans are always a huge story this week. I tweeted something that I was interested to see how it was going to go, because Jordan Spieth is so popular and Scotty Scheffler is so popular, and it's been a long time since a European won this tournament. How did you feel like the fans treated you? It almost felt like you gave them no choice with your play, and it seemed like they kind of came around to you by the end.
Yeah, slowly they was like, actually that Belgium guy, I actually quite like him, But yesterday felt a little bit like that. I think Jordan Spieth and Tom Kim were just playing just in front of me, and I was playing with Alex Smalley and and who was the third one, and Michael Kim, and it kind of felt like we were making the turn, and the leaders were just in front of the wrong way. Like we just teed off on 10, and we kind of joked about that on the first tee. We're like, we're just making the turn here. Obviously Spieth is an amazing guy. People love him. So there was lots of crowds following him yesterday, and still today. Same thing today. But those last couple of holes, it's so crowded. The audience is amazing here, and people were kind of really cheering me on. It's fun to see.
And then I got to ask you, a win early in the season. It is a Ryder Cup year. How much has that been on your radar, and how much is that a goal moving forward?
Yeah, you know what? That Ryder Cup is a dream come true, but it's not really my goal. Like, I don't really play to qualify for that Ryder Cup. I think by achieving the goals that I've set myself, I think I'll naturally qualify for it, And like you just said, it's very early in the year. We've got... I'm ready. 6 months, still at least 6-7 months ahead of it before the team is actually qualified. So it's all going to come down to whoever actually plays the best golf at that time. So, but yeah, this week feels, it's obviously
you can handle
close,
it.
But it's going to be, I can handle it. Exactly right.
Yeah.
I can handle it. At least Luke can see that I can handle the crowd. And I've had a few people telling me some mean things out there today. So I was able to kind of stay in my bubble, But it's part of the show out here, and it's good fun. And I think it's going to be the exact same thing at Bethpage.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you did your country proud. First Belgian to win on the PGA Tour. That's something you'll have forever. So well done, Thomas, and thanks for joining us.
I appreciate it.
I like that guy. I like his game. I like the way he carried himself. I like the way he finished that tournament. Yeah, just a good day to be Thomas Detry. Now we're going to hop into a segment that we're calling the Knockaround. This is presented by Knockaround Sunglasses, which I have with me here. Just a really good product for the right price. I've been taking these with me on tour. They're super durable. They're high quality, and we have good news. If you go to knockaround.com and use the promo code DanOnGolf20, you get 20% off your first order. There are some exclusions that apply. I don't know what those exclusions are, but knockaround.com, promo code DanOnGolf20, you get 20% off your first order. So for this segment, what we're doing is we're jumping around the world that isn't the PGA Tour. We're going to start in Saudi Arabia. Live Golf played their first event under the lights in Saudi Arabia. They have this new deal with Fox. They wanted to put this on television, where it wasn't in the middle of the night. And big Adrian Meronk from Poland got the victory. Now, if you remember Adrian Meronk, kind of an interesting path to getting to Live Golf. He thought he should have made the Ryder Cup team in 2023, didn't make the Ryder Cup team in 2023, and basically said, fuck the system, I'm going to Live Golf. John Rahm's team, Legion 13, they won the title, the team title, popped the champagne. Wait, actually, there's no champagne there. They're in Saudi Arabia. That's right. There's a distinct lack of champagne. Thomas Detry drinks champagne. It was a little bit of a role reversal this week. But anyways, their fifth win. And on his team is Tom McKibben. And an interesting story with Tom McKibben is he is basically Rory McIlroy's protege. He got his PGA Tour card. I think he's 21, maybe 22. Through the DP World Tour last year, they grew up at Hollywood Golf Club together in Northern Ireland. Rory really wanted to take him under his wing. He was taking him under his wing, and as soon as Tom McKibben got his PGA Tour card, he decided to go to Live Golf. And even though Rory was saying publicly, I don't think this is the right move, he joined the right team, so he's obviously making a good deal of money right away. Tiger Woods and Charlie Woods played golf with President Trump yesterday. I believe this was at Trump's property in Florida. This was the only photo. It's quite grainy, but it's the only photo that we got of it. And, say what you want about Trump. He does fun stuff. He went to the UFC, ate those hamburgers with all his boys. Then yesterday he played golf with Tiger in the morning and went to the Super Bowl. So definitely a fun day. On the Korn Ferry Tour, the captain, Kyle Westmoreland, got his first win. This guy I believe in the Air Force Academy. I might be wrong there, but that's just not a guy you want to mess with. Big, strong, and a hell of a player too. You really don't see guys with military backgrounds make their way onto the PGA Tour. Kyle has played a bunch of PGA Tour events, had to go back to the Korn Ferry Tour, but a win early in the season like this really sets him up for a really strong season and hopefully getting back to the tour next year. In Qatar, on the DP World Tour, Hao Tong Lee got the victory. His first one in almost 3 years. Golf fans will remember this guy. I believe he shot 63 in the final round of the 2017 Open Championship to finish solo third as a 21-year-old. He's a character. I remember one time I asked Hao Tong Lee a question, and he said, that's a really silly question, which as a journalist is kind of your worst nightmare. He also put this on his wedges. He stamped his wedges with this at one point. I don't know when this was from, but it says, Hao Tong is the most handsome man in China. And I just want you to think how many men there are in China. He's the most handsome. He beat 800 million other men for that title. And then lastly, the LPGA, I'm going to give them a clap here for this slow play policy. So they unveiled a new slow play policy. There's a warning system, if you're in position, if you're out of position, the hammer. If you are 1 to 5 seconds over time when you're out of position, that's a fine. If you're 6 to 15 seconds out of position, it's a 1-stroke penalty. And if you're more than 15 seconds out of position, it's a 2-stroke penalty. It's an awesome policy. It's super simple. I do not understand why the PGA Tour cannot adopt something similar. So that was the knockaround presented by Knockaround. We're now going to move into the WM Phoenix Open recap. But before we get there, right before the show started, Tiger Woods withdrew from the Genesis Invitational at Torrey. He committed to playing last week. It's a super important event for him. It benefits his foundation. Remember, this event was supposed to be at Riviera, but the wildfires in LA forced to move down to Torrey Pines. He really wanted to be there for his foundation. It was just really important to him, and he felt like that's what his mom would have wanted. I'm going to read his statement here. I plan to tee it up this week, but I'm just not ready. I did my best to prepare, knowing it's what my mom would have wanted, but I'm still processing her loss. Thanks to everyone who has reached out. I hope to be at Torrey later in the week and appreciate the continued kindness since my mom's passing. This one hit him really hard, and it hit us really hard. We got a clip of Tiger talking about the really special relation. A lot has been made about Tiger's relationship with his dad, but I think, a son's relationship with his mother is really special. Let's see that clip from a couple years ago.
Our top college are being recruited. So my family made a tough decision, and at the age of 14 and a half, we took out a second mortgage so I could go out and play the AJJ Tour. Mom stayed at home, Dad traveled, and we went and played. I played the AJJ Tour on our second mortgage. So without the sacrifices of Mom, who took me all to those junior golf tournaments, Dad, who's not here, but who instilled in me this work ethic to fight for what I believe in, chase after my dreams. Nothing's ever going to be given to you. Everything's going to be earned. If you don't go out there and put in the work, you don't go out and put in the effort, one, you're not going to get the results. But two, more importantly, you don't deserve it. You didn't earn it. And so that defined my upbringing, that defined my career, and which allowed me to get into a great university like Stanford.
Yeah, there's really nothing you can say. My mom's here today. It's just don't forget about your mama. Tiger never did, and when you have good moments and bad moments, they're there for you. So I couldn't imagine what he's going through right now, and obviously far more important things than him teeing it up in a golf tournament. Hard to get back after that clip. That one hit pretty hard. But we're gonna roll into we're gonna get back into the golf. We're gonna get back into the WM Phoenix Open, and some good news. Jordan Spieth looked really, really good. It was a little bit of a less chaotic week in the desert. I think the security measures, we're going to ask Joel Damon about that in just a bit, but I love the way Jordan Spieth was swinging the club. He finished tied for fourth. We got some highlights here showing how Jordan was swinging it. What I really liked was this rehearsal here. He was doing this kind of over-the-top rehearsal, clearly trying to make changes with his swing, and I think everyone thinks about Jordan as the scrambler, right? Like the magic, the chips, the putts. You don't win 3 majors before the age of 24 by just scrambling. You have to hit iron shots like that one, and he hit so many good iron shots this week that were perfectly pin high. It was like he didn't even have to watch them land, and that's when you know a guy is swinging well, and of course he has not lost the magic. This on 17, this green is so crowned, you can't really see it on the clip I'm looking at, but if that gets left of the hole, it's rolling down to the fringe. If that gets right of the hole, it could go all the way into the bunker. Instead, it goes right at the hole. And then a really, really solid, encouraging week for Jordan, who's been dealing with a wrist injury for like many years. And let's not forget, this is still the player who is #1 in the world, who was the next heir apparent to Tiger Woods. If he's been dealing with this wrist injury for a long time and now he feels like, it's back and he's capable of going back to what he was doing before, I mean, he knows how to win. He knows how to win golf tournaments. Finished tied for fourth this week. My next guest, unfortunately, did not finish tied for fourth. I believe Joel Damon is joining us here. Joel, you got me?
I do have you. What's up, Mr. Rappaport?
This could have been us. Do you remember that?
this could have been us, but I'm going to try to be a really good golfer on the PGA Tour instead of a media member.
Yeah, so I pitched Joel. We were deciding what to do with this podcast. I pitched Joel on it, and to be fair, you gave me like a let me think about it. It wasn't just a hard no, but then you decided that you weren't ready to commit to this. And after seeing how much work I think this has been, I think you made the right choice.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm proud of you. I love your stuff, and I think obviously this is only going to get bigger and better. And golf could use more Dan and more of your hot takes.
I appreciate this. We're going to go back to a couple years ago. We've got a clip. I think you know exactly what clip I'm talking about. It's you and Harry Higgs.
Boy.
I wanted to ask you because you did all this Navy SEAL training recently. Where you went and you worked on your mental game. I think it's been very well documented in full swing. You're a bit of a different cat as far as a PGA Tour golfer. So he just flashed the crowd. You went full Peter Pablo, take his shirt off, wave around the head like a helicopter. Let's see it right here. Yeah, there it is. Get that thing off. How did the Navy SEALs feel about this? Was this part of the training?
Believe it or not, it was not a part of the training. I don't think that they have time for those extracurricular activities. What a time that was. It seems so long ago, but what was it, 3 years ago, I think? Is that what it was?
Yeah, something like that. You started the year with
16 for me has been very entertaining ever since that, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So you had a top 10 this year, early in the year at Torrey Pines. You missed the cut this week. Do you have a sense going in when that's going to happen? Like, this is going to be a top 10 week, this is going to be a miscut. How early in the week do you know that you're kind of fighting it?
Good question. Course fit is a big one for me. I have never played well here at TPC Scottsdale. It is just down the road from my house, but it's a little bit long for me compared to the other guys. I'm not a bomber, so there's just some tee shots that just set up terrible for me, and the greens, for whatever reason, I can't read them. I have never putted them well. Historically, I'm not a great putter anywhere, but versus like last week at Torrey or 2 weeks ago at Torrey, bumpy, very tough conditions, like pars are good. That's typically where I'm going to excel. When you get into a shootout and a birdie competition, it's going to be tough for me to keep up.
You've been playing a lot of Phoenix Opens. Last year, things got a little bit out of hand. I think there was just a confluence of really bad events with the rain and really just the rain and people getting really drunk and the way that course is set up as a stadium. Was it tamer this year? It seemed to be more security.
Absolutely. It was one of the first things we noticed. The Thunderbirds did a great job of planning, I would say, for, a bad day. Some of the walking bridges for the players were great. Getting from the clubhouse to the putting green was nice. And then there was a few other holes as well that just made that easier. But instead of going to a week-long, like, any day pass, they were giving out individual day passes. So, instead of handing over 20 tickets to someone, they had just individual day passes. So that helped a lot. I think, it's still really fun. It was still the rowdiest event on tour, but there was never any fear of chaos like there was last year.
My last question for you, Joel. Why do you hate my tattoos so much, man? I posted a picture of of a new tattoo, and you just responded "why" with a bunch of whys.
I guess the way I was raised in my house is we're pretty an anti-tattoo house, and yours. I know, given saying that, my wife has multiple tattoos and multiple large ones at that, but can't be seen typically. Mostly can't be seen, and yours. You
can't see them.
Yeah. Well, no, but if you wear a golf shirt, you can, or a polo. But also, it's just completely random.
Yeah, it's a look into my brain. I get really excited about things, and then I look up, and they're on my body.
Okay, I'm okay with that, but and it's your body, and it's your choice and your life. But I also have the right to make fun of you for what you put on there.
I wouldn't want it any other way. Thank you so much, Joel. You're the first ever live guest on Dan on Golf, so add that to your illustrious career resume. Thank you so much for joining us.
To the moon, as we say, Dan on Golf, to the moon.
I appreciate you, buddy. Fellow knock-arounder, by the way. We had a hole-in-one on 16, not just any hole-in-one, a slam dunk from Emiliano Grillo. And I know Joel said it was a little bit tamer this year. I don't know. This was a hole-in-one on Thursday, and beer started flying. Let's roll the clip.
All right, just seconds ago. Really upset now. Go ahead and just do that.
Great reaction.
A slam dunk.
Exactly what you want to see. Look at that. The beer's going everywhere. If you don't enjoy this, you might be a lame person. It's 1 week a year. No one's getting injured. A little bit of sticky hair with beer. Not the worst thing that's ever happened in the world. Wasn't the only hole out. Justin Thomas, bit of a showman. You know, people, he's a big draw out there. I think people, you know, social media is not always real life. Justin Thomas is a massive, massive superstar. Like, you go to a golf tournament and he's one of the top 5 people that people are following. And he had a hole out eagle on the last hole to sneak into the top 10. Good signs from JT this year. Let's roll that clip.
At 18, Justin Thomas, he comes here tied for 13th. Oh, this could be close. Come on now. This could be in. It is. Eagle for Justin Thomas.
So good. It felt almost like a bit of a throwback. We had Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas in the first page of the leaderboard, which golf could use absolutely more of. Those two are just great American young players. They're still young. They're still 30. You know, I'm in my 30s now, so I got a lot of empathy for people who are like 31, 32. They're still very young, okay? We're very young. We're very young. I want to make that very clear. But we're not as young as a guy named Luke Clanton. So Luke Clanton is the #1 amateur in the world. He's a junior at Florida State. If you've been following golf, you're watching the show, you probably do. You're probably a golf sicko. I salute you. So am I. He's been playing incredible. He finished second, I think, once, maybe even more than once last year. He had that battle at the U.S. Open with Neil Shipley for low amateur. He's the #1 amateur in the world, and he entered this week. He got a sponsor's invite to play the WM Phoenix Open. If he made the cut, he was going to get his PGA Tour card through PGA Tour U Accelerated. So PGA Tour U is a program for seniors, and the top senior goes straight to the PGA Tour every year. This year was Michael Bjornsson. The year before that, it was Ludwig Oberg, so obviously those guys can handle it. But if you're even more precocious, if you're like a phenom, there's a way you can get your PGA Tour card and lock up your PGA Tour card before you're a senior through PGA Tour U Accelerated. You get points for playing in the Walker Cup, for winning certain events. Gordon Sargent from Vanderbilt actually did this, but decided instead of leaving after his junior year at Vanderbilt to go play the tour, he wanted to come back and then accept his membership at the end of his senior year, which is what he's going to do. Luke Clanton made a run at the on Friday. If he made the cut, he would have got to 20 points. He would have locked up his PGA Tour card and then had the choice to turn pro and join the tour right after the college season of his junior year or his senior year, and he got agonizingly close. Let's look at this putt on 18. And the crowd knew it too. Just gave it a little bit too much. See how much it means to him. And that is also 21-year-old Flo. Look at that hair. That's a TikTok haircut. You cannot have that if you're over the age of 26, I think. But he pulls it off with the mustache too. But it's only a matter of time for Luke Clanton, and I actually got to know him better this week. We do these one-hole whists on the Scratch Instagrams. We've done them with Shane Lowry. We've done them with Robert McIntyre. We've done them with Saad Theegala. And we did one with Luke Clanton, and he's very open about his faith. And I wanted to ask him about it, and we had a pretty cool conversation about it. He's for our audio audience, he's hitting the shot.
I wanted
to
ask you really quickly about your faith.
Yeah.
You're very open about it, which you don't see all the time with athletes.
I came into my faith about 2.5 years now in college. Yeah, so I had a pretty cool moment in my life where I kind of had, I guess, a Jesus moment. I was atheist kind of growing up a little bit, and I'm pretty open about that because not many people are, you know, and I think coming into my faith has made me realize a lot more about what golf actually is.
What do you mean by that? What is golf?
I used to be obsessed over it. And then I realized that golf is just a game at the end of the day. We get to do great things and play in front of thousands and all that, but at the end of the day, we're hitting a little white golf ball around and not doing too much, man. So it's been awesome, no doubt. No break.
Another cool story from Phoenix was Will Chandler. So this was the final year of the WM Phoenix Open Monday qualifier. It's a very hot topic. I think we actually have Monday Q himself coming on the show. I'm sure he's going to have some strong feelings about this. But, you know, with the tour lessening field sizes, there's less room for Monday qualifiers. So this was the last year of the Monday qualifier at the WM Phoenix Open. And Will Chandler got through the Monday qualifier, made the cut, got paired with Scotty Scheffler on Sunday, and outplayed him. He whipped him 66 versus 72. And Will Chandler now finishes in the top 10, and he is going to be into the Mexico Open. What an incredible week for him. He made $310,000 after this was only his third PGA Tour start, and he made $310,000. So that was awesome. And then one more thing I wanted to highlight with Keith was Keith Mitchell. Switching his putting grip in the middle of the round. You know, we think of these guys as like totally different animals from we are. Like, they're professional golfers. No way they're going to do something crazy as go left-hand low in the middle of the round. You're actually wrong. Here's Keith Mitchell.
What to do to flip the switch and put yourself in the mix into the weekend?
I've flipped my hands on my grip. I started the day yesterday left-hand low for the first 5 holes and hit 0 good putts through 5 holes. So I said that's enough. Went back to my original conventional grip and was 10 under since then. It's that simple.
How long had you done left-hand low for?
Exactly 3 days and 5 holes. I didn't putt great at Pebble, and felt like maybe I could just try to find something magic in a bottle somewhere, and maybe left-hand low would be the trick, and it was clearly not the trick. But it was worth a shot.
Yeah, worth a shot indeed. I love that. Just, now if you want to switch your grip in the middle of the round, don't feel bad. The best players in the world are doing it. The Phoenix Open for me will always be associated with Mr. Ricky Fowler, Big Dick Rick. That's where the nickname started. We had a chance to catch up with Ricky. It's his 16th year on the PGA Tour. That kind of hit me hard. He's a father of 2 now. You know, we all think of Ricky as the long-haired, all-orange guy who broke through at Oklahoma, wearing the Oklahoma State stuff, putting on an electric show. But he's grown into a man. He's a father of 2, and we caught up on Tuesday at a Cobra event. Oh, I forgot this outfit. Yeah, the reason I forgot to mention this outfit is because there's nothing to see there. You get it? It's a camo joke. Yeah, the objective with these outfits is to get us talking about it, to show it on shows like this, and that's exactly what Ricky did. It's not my necessarily cup of tea, but look, I love Ricky Fowler for many reasons. Doesn't mean that I want to dress like him or that I have ambitions of dressing like him. Yeah, definitely caught the attention. Let's roll that Ricky clip.
Weird to think about it because I don't feel that old. I feel like I've only been doing this for a handful of years, but it's been a few handfuls.
Well, it's funny because I just turned 30, and I think like when I turned 30, I expected to like feel super different, and I still feel 21.
Mentally, I'm like 15. Yeah, I've kind of held at that stage for quite a while. Physically, a little more sore here or there. But yeah, other than that, I mean, mentally, I really don't see myself getting past 15 for quite a while.
That's a good place to be. You've been with Cobra for a long time now. Yeah, he still feels 15. I still feel 21. So I guess that makes me older than Ricky Fowler. I think we're moving on to a new segment here that I'm really, really excited about, Dog of the Week. Now, you might be wondering, what is Dog of the Week? Well, DOG is an acronym for Dan on Golf. Welcome to the show. This is Dan on Golf. But it's basically who showed that dog. And I was a little bit concerned, who am I going to choose for Dog of the Week? And then a youngish man from France playing golf in South Africa took this award with both hands, and I am very honored that he is the first Dog of the Week. So Sebastian Gross. It's now called the Hotel Planner Tour. It used to be the Challenge Tour. It's the second division of the DP World Tour, so the Korn Ferry version of the PGA Tour. Sebastian shot 80 in the first round, which is not very good for a professional golfer. But when someone shoots 80, you want some context. Was it blowing 40 miles an hour? What was the average score? It turned out 40 of the guys in the field shot under par, so it wasn't playing that hard. He shoots 80. What does he do on Friday? 60. Course record 60. He improved by 20 shots. He improved by 14 shots on the front 9, from a 42 to a 28. And I know there's been guys who have had wild swings, like John Daly, I think shot 63-85, but there was an injury and he quit. It's much more impressive to shoot 80-60 than 63-85 because you got that dog in you. He's our Dog of the Week, and I am overjoyed and honored to be joined live by Mr. 80-60, Sebastian Gross. Sebastian, we got you. Where are you?
Hi, Dan. I'm in a new hotel in South Africa, in another place of South Africa.
South Africa. Well, you're now, it's like Mr. Steele, you're a girl, like you're Mr. 80-60 forever. My first question for you, how many Pinot Noirs on Wednesday night? What the heck happened on Thursday, my friend?
Absolutely nothing on Wednesday night, nothing special. I would have loved to get a few South African wines, but absolutely not. And don't be too rude. It was very windy in the afternoon.
Okay, fair enough. And so then, I had some comments when we shared this, like what that range session on Thursday night could cure most terminal diseases. Like what we want a 30 for 30. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like these sports documentaries that we have in the U.S. We want a 30 for 30 on that range session. So how does a golfer go from shooting 80 to 60?
Well, honestly, it was a pretty unlucky 80. It's a huge number. But every time I was planning on a gust, it was not coming. Every time I was not planning on the gust, it was coming, and couldn't make it in a single putt on the green. So it was a very harsh number to shoot and to sign for. But to be very honest, having dinner with my future wife, and I just had a click in my head that tomorrow morning is going to be a new day. There was no range session, so I could not cure cancer.
What do you mean? You didn't hit balls? You didn't hit balls on Thursday night?
No,
well, I guess people are still going to get cancer then.
Sorry for that. And no, it just clicked in my mind. I just opened the door to new possibilities and knew I could shoot a low number because I knew my game was not that bad, even if I needed 80 shots. But I was not ready for 60, to be honest. But I had a clear plan in my head. That was for 9. That was to go for 63. And well, I would have missed the cut by 1 if I had shot 63. So it was a funny day to go out and got 9 birdies in the last 10 holes to shoot 60.
Is there anything you can take from that mindset moving forward of like that freedom? Because you said you had a number in mind and you went even lower than that. I wonder if like that mindset can carry you forward.
If it was, it would be magical, and we would all been shooting under 65 every single day. But no, unfortunately, it's way harder than that. And what's magical is that it happened, and that these are round numbers. It's like 80, 60. It's perfect. Like it's perfect for the dog of the week. And if I could, if I could tell you a secret, I would tell you for sure, but I don't have the secret for that, especially when you see the scores I had on the weekend. So I don't know if 60 was the number to do, or if the 3 other scores were defined me in my golf level for this week. But Thursday was horrendous, and Friday was a dream. So it's just a perfect definition of golf, huh?
Yeah, and then Saturday and Sunday, I thought it ended perfectly. It went 80, 60, 75, 75. So a 20-shot gap between Thursday and Friday, and then the same number on the weekend.
And to be honest, I was dreaming about a 70-70 weekend.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I thought that would be 80, 60, 70, 70 would be an amazing way to play 280 on a tournament.
Yeah, that would have been something special. We traded some DMs. I gave you a little free marketing advice. If you want to send me an invoice, that might be helpful. That you got to run with this, man. You've been a professional golfer for a long time. You're Mr. 80-60 now. Did you get your wedges stamped? Did you get a logo made?
I'm not gonna do that for a logo brand or stuff. But the next wedges are gonna be 80-60 for sure. I think I've got way more things to do on my golf game than my brain, because I still shot 80 about 5 days ago as a pro golfer. So it was a long time I haven't put an 8 in front of the number. So let's get back on track and get those high numbers out.
I appreciate you joining us. You're still Mr. 80-60 to me. I'll be following your journey.
And I'll send you royalties if I send some stuff. Huh?
That would be good. That would be really good. Thank you so much. Let's hope for let's get some 68, 70, 66, 69 next week. Let's just chill out a little bit. We good with that?
Too boring for a French.
Yeah, too boring for French. That's right. The French guys don't do that. Well, thank you so much. You're the inaugural dog of the week. So thank you for joining us. We're going to hand this award to a lot of very famous people, but you will always be the first. So thank you so much for joining us, Sebastian.
Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about Will Chandler and the Monday qualifier. And I wanted to get Mr. Monday qualifier on the show, Ryan French. If you're not familiar with Ryan French, he's Monday Q Info on Twitter and Instagram, X and Instagram. And he basically tells the stories of professional golfers outside of the top of the pyramid. If we think about professional golf as a pyramid, and the top is PGA Tour, Live Golf, DP World Tour, and then the Korn Ferry Tour, he lives in the area below that. So Ryan, joining us live on the line here, I believe. There he is. You got me, Ryan?
I do. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me. I appreciate you. First show.
First show. I want to give you the stage. I know you feel really, really strong about this. Make a case for why the PGA Tour, your case for why they're making a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, I just said this earlier today. Is like, there's no argument that, it's around 30% of Monday qualifiers make the cut. I've talked about the many examples of players who have changed their career via Mondays. I think a bigger, maybe more important right now is the fact that golf, the top of pro golf, is a lot of infighting. It's a lot of talk about money. I think fans are relatively sick of hearing about the fight and the agreement and who's getting more money and PIP, and that just gets exhausting. And Monday qualifiers can be relatable. I mean, Will Chandler has no business being a pro golfer, quite frankly. Like, no business.
Tell us a little bit about his story. Like, why do you say that?
Yeah. So Will, by his own admission, went to Georgia, but kind of ruined any golf recruiting because Georgia wasn't really recruiting him, but he wanted to go there. Never really played on the team. He did as an individual. He played in a few events, but Brentley Romine from Golf Channel, did a stat about him that he beat 26% of the players he played against in college.
That's
he averaged
not very high.
70. Yeah, that's not very high. He averaged nearly 76 as a senior. Like, he just wasn't very good, right? And but that's what I've always loved about pro golf is it's always been like, just shoot the score and you're going to make it. We're getting farther and farther away from that. And, Will worked his butt off. Last year, Monday qualified 5 times on the Korn Ferry Tour, earned himself temporary membership, went to Q school, earned one of the 5 PGA Tour cards. Monday qualified this Monday and beat the best player in the world playing with him in his first ever made cut ever. Those are the stories. I am not pretending that Monday qualifiers are a big part of pro golf, but I think they're an important small part. I think they make pro golf relatable in a time where the top of pro golf doesn't seem relatable to a lot of us.
Yeah, I mean, it's a unique thing in sports, right? Like, there's no Monday qualifier for the NBA, right? There's no pickup game where you can go and then you're playing with LeBron. There's nothing in baseball where you can go have a bullpen session and then start against the Yankees. Do we risk guys giving up earlier? Is that a potential?
Yes, I mean, I'll say this all the time. Like, pro golfers have told me that this is their last year. Now, to be fair, in this context, pro golfers tell me that all the time.
I was going to say, I feel like they have a lot of last years.
Yeah, I've said often, if I had $1 for every time a player's going to quit and then shows up at Q school, I'd be a millionaire. But I mean, the door is closing, right? It's closing even more. So, and again, I like Will Chandler's story is a perfect example of what I've loved about golf. Leading up to the first tee, but once Will Chandler and Scotty put their tee in the ground on the first hole, things were equal, right? They were tied and they had the same opportunity to take advantage of the final round on Sunday than anyone else did. And that doesn't happen in other sports. Like, no one would have drafted Will Chandler. No one had signed him to a rookie contract. No one would have put him in a free agent pool. He would not have been where he is today if this was any other sport. And I think we're in danger of getting more like other sports where it's handpicked people. And, again, I know I'm in the minority. I know I'm biased, but I wish that it was more like leaning on the history of the PGA Tour that when this whole fight started, I thought the PGA Tour would lean into.
Yeah. It's changed a lot. I mean, the signature events weren't a thing before. These no-cut events, things have gotten pretty wild these last couple of years. Before I let you go, I just want to ask you a little bit about your story. How'd you become Monday Q? I mean, you created this job, and I know it's been a wild ride. Just give us sort of like the elevator pitch or whatever it is of like how you got from whatever you were to being the Monday Q guy.
Yeah, never in a million years thought I would be here. I was running a group of restaurants, been a golf nerd all my life, played junior college golf. My dad and I went and caddied on a mini tour once a year as our guys trip. And our son had brain surgery 7.5 years ago, and I left my job, what I thought was temporarily to tweet about Mondays, but I never thought it was a thing. It's literally something to do to not watch cartoons while I took care of my 2 kids. My wife is a nurse and had our health care. And so I did that, never thinking it would be anything. And somehow I've never gone back to work. It's been the craziest ride ever. Multiple days, including messaging today with Patrick Harrington, are super surreal about like what this has become. I'm very, very lucky and very appreciative of everyone's support.
I don't think luck has anything to do with it. I think you have grinded your ass off. I think you've gone to a bunch of Monday qualifiers when there was no one there. You started doing something that no one was doing, and you bullied your way into this job, and I have a tremendous respect for you. If you guys don't follow Monday Q Info, and also I got 1 subscription on X, and it's to this guy, because the work that he's doing is really a gift to the game of golf. So thank you so much for joining us, Ryan.
Thanks for all the support, Dan. I really do appreciate it. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, guys. Yeah. Man, it makes me sad. It does. I feel like there's got to be room for Mondays, right? Like, I know there's still going to be some, but is it really hurt anyone to have a few extra guys in the field? Like, I think it'd even be cool in the signature events. Like, the PGA Tour players who aren't, in the signature events would play on the Monday, right? And they still qualify their way in. There's just something romantic about playing your way in to the tournament and having a chance to do what Will Chandler did. And he made $310,000. That changed his life. His life changed. And I don't know if I want to get rid of those. My next guest is younger than me, which is really tough for me. I remember when I was the baby in the media center, and I'm not anymore. Gabby Herzig is our next guest. If you've been following golf, you've probably been seeing her. She's doing some really amazing reporting for The Athletic, which is part of the New York Times. I remember personally when she was we were both at Golf Digest. She was an intern, kind of showed her around her first week at the media center, and now she's, making appearances on Golf Channel and writing these incredible stories. And we talked right after the election, because Gabby was doing some pretty like serious reporting, it's the New York Times, about how a Trump DOJ would handle a potential deal with the Saudi investment fund versus how a Biden or a Harris administration would handle it. And after Trump won, Gabby said that this is going to make the deal much more likely to move forward. Let's play that clip from about a month ago. No, that's not true. Like 3 months ago.
And when you consider Trump's connections to golf, his connections to Saudi Arabia, his liking for Live Golf, the courses that Live Golf plays are belong to President Trump. Yeah. There could be a significant difference in how he would act and how involved he would be in the process than a Kamala Harris administration, which would, according to a bunch of the experts I talked to, be pretty tough on a merger like this, because it would be anti-competitive. It would take away opportunities that were previously available to golfers in, what we have seen with Live in the PGA Tour, competing for players, competing for contracts. And basically the election has a huge impact on how the deal could play out and whether it is under the scrutiny of the DOJ.
Gabby Herzig joining us live on the line now. Gabby, we got you there, Gabby.
Hey, Dan.
I just want to tell you that I'm proud of you. And
thanks.
Yeah, I probably don't tell you that ever. I like to make jokes, but you're doing really incredible work. And it's been an interesting experience for me to watch someone younger than me come up and kind of have those like feelings of pride. So I just want to tell you that I think you're doing a really good job.
Oh, thank you so much, Dan. I mean, I do remember that week at the Waste Management where I was like basically following you around everywhere you went. So I do appreciate your guidance through this journey for me.
Yeah, well, we're still a team. So you were right. You were right. Trump is involved in this. The PGA Tour released a statement saying that Jay Monahan and Adam Scott had visited. We know golf fans are eagerly anticipating a resolution to negotiations, blah, 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 blah. We thank President Trump for his interest and longtime support of the game of golf. We ask the president to get involved for the good of the game, the good of the country, and for all the countries involved. We are grateful that his leadership has brought us closer to a final deal, paving the way for reunification of men's professional golf. How significant is this, Gabby, that arguably the most powerful person in the world is on the case?
It's extremely significant. It's always been fascinating to me that politics are playing a factor in the sport that I cover. I always kind of joke I was a politics major in college, and everyone made fun of me for becoming a golf journalist. And now I'm like, you guys, this is coming in handy finally. But it's very significant. I anticipated something like this was going to come. I honestly wasn't sure whether it would come from Trump himself or from the PGA Tour. But like I explained in that clip earlier, there was a lot of speculation that one could make about how a Trump administration would handle this. And it's very clear that the PGA Tour anticipated that as well, especially with, Jay Monahan was invited personally by Trump to play golf with him before the new year. Then you saw Yasser sitting next to Trump at the UFC fight. There's been a lot of tea leaves that you can kind of read in this situation, but now it's really coming to fruition. I think what's clear is that it's not over yet. Yeah. There's still a lot of work to be done. One of the things that I reported earlier this fall was, Trump can say whatever he wants to say and direct the Department of Justice for his prosecutorial priorities as, the executive branch. But there's also a lot of movement to be done. Like one professor I spoke to described it as trying to turn the Titanic, because there are lots of staff members and there's been a whole process with the regulatory body already and the Department of Justice in the last administration that they've been going through. So it's not like all that work was for nothing. He can't just shut it down in the blink of an eye, but he can surely guide things and start directing the people that he has communication with.
This might have been before your time, but the Titanic sank. So are we more optimistic about turning this hypothetical Titanic around?
I'm optimistic. Obviously, it's the president of the United States we're dealing with here, and the PGA Tour specifically met with him and asked a favor of him, and he's been a long-time fan of golf, a golfer himself, has a very close personal relationship with Tiger Woods. We saw he played golf with him yesterday morning before the Super Bowl. I am optimistic that something is going to come together very soon, but I just feel like people need to understand that this is not a done deal yet.
Right, it's not just like everyone is like going to be playing together at the memorial.
Yes, and I think that's a super important factor as well. This is a transaction we're talking about. Like they want the investment from the PIF to come into the PGA Tour. That doesn't necessarily mean anything about the two tours coming together and there suddenly being a solution to this fracture in the game.
Well, I mean, we just saw today, or we saw last week, the USGA paved a way for LIV players to get into the US Open. Today, the R&A, so it doesn't seem like it's going away that quick. I want to move topics with you a little bit. You spent some time around Team Jordan Spieth this week. Nice work. It's always nice when you do that and then they end up playing well. You spent some time with Cameron McCormick, his coach, and he was talking about, this is a different kind of Jordan Spieth. What'd you learn from your time around Team Spieth?
Yeah, it was really eye-opening, especially talking to a guy like Cameron McCormick, who has literally been teaching Spieth since he was 12 years old. Yeah. He told me this story about how Spieth came and sat down in his office before he even hit a ball in front of Cambrick and said, I want to win the Masters. And then he kind of used that as an example of Jordan has this quality of impatience as a golfer and as an athlete that he hasn't really seen in any other kinds of players that he's worked with, this relentlessness and restlessness in a way. And Cameron described it to me as this injury, the surgery actually forcing Jordan Spieth to be patient for the first time in his life. He physically cannot be impatient because it's going to take some time to get back into the swing of things with his wrist. And he actually spoke to us after the first round of Pebble Beach on Thursday about how his wrist just locked up after the front nine. He hit one bunker shot and it just kind of ruined his flow of things for the back nine. So there's definitely going to be some hurdles that he's going to have to jump over in this process. But I found it so interesting that McCormick was saying Spieth is actually easier to work with now than any other time in his career of working with him. And I think that's actually a really great sign for the rest of the season for Spieth. I think in his history, he can get ahead of himself a little bit sometimes. And I think we're actually seeing him kind of transform psychologically through this wrist surgery, which is an interesting thing to take away from it.
Yeah, I'd love to know if Michael Greller feels the same way. If he's easier to deal with. That's obviously Spieth's caddy. We're going to have you back on the show because you're amazing at this. I don't know if you can see your chyron underneath. It says a very serious reporter from the New York Times because you're a very serious reporter. But I'm going to put you on the spot because we're going to have this clip to go back to. Who's going to win the Masters?
Okay, since this is recorded and we're on the record here.
Don't say Scotty.
Yeah, I'm gonna be super boring and go Scottie Scheffler. I honestly, like, I was going through like the official world golf rankings, so just like going down the list, and I just couldn't make an argument for any of the other top guys up there right now besides Scottie.
Well, I mean, none of them are really playing. I guess Rory, but there's all the baggage there. But Xander's not playing.
Xander's not playing. The only other name that I think really jumped out to me was Justin Thomas, and I can see his golf game like really like, when it's at its peak, really succeeding well at Augusta. But then again, like, do I think that's beating a Scottie Scheffler at the top of his game? No. So I'm going to go with that and stay safe. I mean, back-to-back Masters for Scottie, especially with the start to the season he had with the hand injury, it would be amazing. I would personally love to see it. His game just fits the course so well, the conservative nature of his game, and just like pouncing when he has the opportunities. It's very
I love watching him chip around there, because some of people don't really talk enough about how hard the chipping is at Augusta because of how slopey it is and how firm the greens are. And Tiger always used to talk about you got to be able to cut chips, you got to be able to draw chips. And there's a YouTube video out there in the ether of Tiger and Scottie doing this, and it's like pornography for golf fans. So thank you so much for joining us, Gabby. I'm sure will I see you at Torrey this week?
You will not see me at Torrey. My next event is the Players Championship, so I will see you there.
I will see you there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, speaking of Torrey Pines, we're actually going to jump ahead in our leaderboard here. Again, this is live television. We are learning on the fly, and you guys watching this can always say you watched the first ever Dan on Golf. Things change. We're going to bring on. Look, I'm not very good at golf, the gambling stuff. People always ask me because it's a big part of covering sports now, and I'm just like kind of clueless. Not clueless. I shouldn't say that. I understand how it works. I understand the odds. I'm just not very good at it. The good news is that there are people like Rick Gaiman who exist, and Rick has a website called rickrungood.com that he has built. He's like a proper data scientist, got that whole background, and he's going to help us. Hopefully, I got some dollars here, some prop dollars. I found these like 5 minutes ago in the set. They're not real, but you're going to help us make some of these. Rick joining us now on the line. Rick Gaiman, can you hear me all right?
I got you loud and clear, Dan.
Awesome,
good to see you, bud.
Good to see you, too. So this event, the Genesis, was supposed to be at Riviera. It has moved to Torrey Pines. Some similarities. I think there's some Kikuyu going on, some differences. But I know that like course fit is a really big part of your model. So talk to me about the two different golf courses and the profiles they provide.
Yeah, listen, they're only, 60-some miles apart, but from a statistical standpoint, they are night and day when it comes to trying to model these courses. To put it one way, Riviera asks you a lot of different questions, Dan. You know this. I mean, it'll ask you to hit drivers some places, to ratchet it down. It's going to ask you to work the ball left and right and to kind of know what it's going to do on the ground. Torrey Pines kind of asks you the same question over and over and over again, which is hit drivers as far as you can. Long and straight, right. Hit drivers as far as you can. Go find it, extract it from the rough. You're just being asked that same question basically 18 times. So it does change the model pretty significantly. The stats say if you're going to have to choose between being long or straight, playing out of the fairway is better. There's less of an error or a penalty for playing out of the fairway than if you're hitting long drives and playing it out of the rough. So a lot of different ways to get it done, but it does usually create a situation where you're seeing similar shots on every single hole.
Yeah, it's really interesting you say that about Riviera. It's my favorite part of the course. There's this big debate in LA. What do you like more, Riviera or LA Country Club? And I'm a Riviera guy because every single tee shot makes you think. It's like I think of that fifth hole, and it's like if you want to hit 3-wood to get it down there, but if you pull it left, it can go down. There's just very few holes where it's grab driver and rip it. So with that in mind, with the betting profile of Torrey in mind, give me a pick for the Genesis this week.
Yeah, I don't think it's super crazy. I'm going with Ludwig Åberg, and despite the 3 rounds that we have seen him play most recently, where he's been quite literally vomiting on the golf course, and he's been ill, I think we can forgive him for those. But when you talk about long and straight off the tee, Dan, there is nobody longer, there's nobody straighter. He's got that total driving thing completely figured out. But I'm not sure everyone realizes what we're witnessing right now. Since he turned pro in 2024, I believe it was the Canadian Open was the first event that he played as a professional. He's the 5th best golfer in the world in terms of strokes gained. I mean, it's silly how good he is right now. He was on top of the leaderboard through 2 rounds before getting ill just a couple of weeks ago. I don't think there's any reason to think that the South Course of Torrey Pines is going to give Ludwig too much trouble here.
But it's time for a big win, I think. It's like he's been there. He was up there with the Masters. He's got that one victory, but it does feel like, he needs a signature event or something like that. Not needs. Again, he's so young still, but it feels like the golf world's waiting for it.
Yeah, that's the burden of high expectations, Dan, right? Like we have already anointed him. So now you've got to start putting trophies on the mantle. I agree with you.
Yeah. As you can see on our graphic here, we were going to ask you about Tiger making the cut. He was going to say yes, by the way. So so that's big, right? We're not Tiger haters here. But I want to talk about Scotty. So we saw some really, really positive signs at Torrey Pines. He ended up finishing in the top 10. He was up there by the lead for a little bit yesterday, ended up falling back. He was so ruthlessly consistent last year that these two events back to back, if there wasn't the injury, we'd be like, what's wrong with Scotty? What is the state of Scotty Scheffler, and how are you handling him?
I'm usually an 11 out of 10 on Scotty Scheffler. I think right now I'm a 9 out of 10, right? Again, this is the burden of high expectations. The bar for him is very, very high. What we saw over the final 10 holes or 9 holes at TPC Scottsdale were ugly, right? That short missed putt, that
a throwback.
If he makes that, if he makes that, he probably wins the golf tournament. Instead, he ends up shooting 40 something on the second 9 and finishing T25. But I think the problem for Scotty this week in particular is that Torrey Pines does not care who you are, right? And you see a lot of big missed cuts from guys at the top of the betting board. There are very few golfers that have really consistent, solid course history. You see Hideki's got really great history. Jason Day does as well. But what you normally see is runner-up, miscut, T8, miscut. Right? It's just hard because there's so many bogeys lurking everywhere. So I think there's better places for Scotty. I think that Riviera would have been better for him. But again, that just moves him from by far the number one best player in the world to maybe a toss-up this week for him being the best player in the world.
Right. And then I wanted to ask you about TGL because, in your industry, you it's hard to bet on golf. There's so many, the waves can be different, the weather can be different. Yeah. We thought that TGL would be kind of a controlled environment, but there is a little bit of chaos. It seems like they're having some technical, issues. And it's just so different. You build all these models for golf. Have you built a model for TGL? How is your industry handling it? And do you have a pick for the next competition?
No model for TGL yet. That would be sick.
You got a homework assignment for next week.
I know. The thing is, it's such a small sample size. They don't play 18 holes, guys. I mean, they're literally playing alternate shot in 3. So you're getting just so few shots from every single golfer. That's why you're seeing so much chaos. So the next event we've got is LAGC against Atlanta Drive. I do like the LAGC side. I'll give you a couple of reasons why here. So one, Colin Morikawa is totally sick, and Justin Rose cares too much about this. He
really does care a lot, man. I love it.
Yes. It goes a long way. If you care the most, that's you're already 1 point up. The other issue I have, Dan, this is getting really deep into it.
I love it.
I think Atlanta throws the hammer too much and in bad spots.
Good. Right? Okay. Yes.
Justin Thomas was a minus EV hammer thrower when they played New York Golf Club, and NYGC might be the worst team in the league, so they got away with it. This is just a prize fighter who throws nothing but haymakers, hopes to connect once. You are susceptible to getting tired. You are susceptible to the counter punch. I just worry that Atlanta hammers themselves into oblivion here and costs it the match.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Rick. Are you down to be my gambling guy? I don't want to think about this stuff. I want you to think about it for me.
I'd be thrilled to. That'd be great.
Yeah. You also sound just like Chad Mumm, and I think our Pro Shop people will understand. You guys just sound the exact same. Thank you so much for joining us, Rick. We'll be sure to talk to you next week.
Thanks, Dan.
There's a big conversation on the PGA Tour about pace of play right now. The rounds are taking a really long time, 5+ hours at Torrey Pines, 5+ hours in perfect conditions in the desert at the American Express. And so everyone's looking at what we can do to be better. And we had a meeting with some PGA Tour executives at Pebble Beach where they outlined a number of things that they talked about. There's going to be less guys in the field next year so they can spread out the intervals between tee times, which they were saying apparently slow players can hide, because if there's too many people on the course, they liken it to a traffic jam. No matter how fast you're going, you're going to hit the traffic jam. So there's no real incentive to play faster if once you make the turn, you're going to run into a wall. They talked about using technology to handle rulings remotely. They talked about, this is a spicy one because it would be such a new direction for the tour. actually publicizing guys' average stroke times and sort of publicly shaming them. Brooks Koepka has famously said the only way to do this is to start stroking people, just handing them penalties. But one thing that's come under scrutiny is aimpoint. And so aimpoint is a green reading technique devised, I believe, by Mark Sweeney, who figured out that if you can feel the break with your feet, you see these guys straddling the line, they're kind of hopping between feet. They're trying to feel like what's a 1%, what's a 2% break. And a 1% break, it turns out, just due to math, corresponds to you close your eye, you put your finger on the edge of the hole, and that's where you aim. And it's a bit of an eyesore. It takes a long time. And Lucas Glover, who's a longtime PGA Tour player, won the U.S. Open in 2009. Still playing really well. I think he made the Tour Championship this year. 16 years later, he's got a show on Sirius XM, and he is not a fan of aimpoint. Let's roll Lucas Glover. There we go. We're live, baby.
Here we go. Aimpoint statistically hasn't helped anybody make more putts since its inception on the PGA Tour. Statistics have bared that out. It's also kind of rude to be up near the hole, stomping around, figuring out where the break is in your feet. It needs to be banned. It takes forever.
The other end of that spectrum is the U.S. Ryder Cup captain, Keegan Bradley. So I do a video series on YouTube where I caddy for guys. Started at Barstool. We've carried it over here to Scratch. And Keegan's like fully down the aimpoint rabbit hole. He says that there are whole tournaments sometimes where he doesn't even bend down. You'll see him doing this all the time. And he thinks that it's actually going to get more prevalent rather than less. Let's hear from Keegan Bradley.
I try, now that I've been doing aimpoint, I try not to let my eyes tell me anything. I'm telling you, in 10 years, when these younger kids all get out, no one will be reading greens. Zero.
And that doesn't elicit any emotion in you?
What's the difference?
It's just like golf is about...
Bending down? Is that what it is?
It's just been one of those things that's been part of the game forever.
I do. I don't adjust my arm. Some guys calibrate their arm to distances, but I sort of feel it just outside right edge. Still got it.
Walked it in. We're moving. It was
birdie.
Was it a par 4?
It's a par 5.
No.
Still got it. I love that. He walked it in. So, yeah, I mean, it just shows there are varying opinions on aimpoint and what role it has. And I figured we'd bring in someone who's something of a putting expert. Marcus Potter is joining us live on the line. Potter's Putting on Instagram. Coaches guys like Lee Hodges on the PGA Tour. Marcus, are we team Lucas or are we team Keegan or are we team in between?
Kind of team in between, because kind of like you mentioned earlier in the show, speed, pace of play, like the tour doesn't really enforce their policies, and policies aren't
and
great
that's
to start
actually
with.
A good point, right? Like if the tour's not don't blame the player, blame the game. Like if they're not gonna they're gonna do what they have to do to feel like they play their best.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. I mean, I've seen it now where I get both sides of it, because as a putting coach, I've learned where some guys can't read greens with their eyes. That's just something that is a major problem for some guys. And then you get them with their feet and they're great. And so it's a major advantage for guys that can't use their eyes to be able to use the feet. But again, that starts taking up time. And this is my biggest issue with aimpoint is kind of the etiquette in golf. Etiquette kind of gets thrown out the window a little bit with it. At the highest level on the PGA Tour is where typically you'll see the best etiquette in the game. And as you get further levels down, etiquette kind of typically starts to disappear. But even on PGA Tour, the highest levels, I've talked to top 5 players in the world, and they've had issues with guys stepping in their line, stepping around the hole, kind of like Lucas was talking about. And that starts to get old over time. That affects people behind you. And that's where it kind of goes back to, if the PGA Tour enforced a pace of play policy, I think guys would learn to do aimpoint in their allotted time, and it wouldn't be an issue. But I just think right now guys are so free I can have 3 minutes to do this if I really want. And then they take those 3 minutes and then they miss a 7-foot putt and then they have 3 feet coming back and then they do the same damn thing on that 3-footer coming back.
Yeah, it is ugly. I got to say I tried. I'm not, I guess I'm an eye reader. I'm old school that way. Is he right though about the stats? Like because there's also like variables in there of whether green speeds. Is he right that the putting stats on tour are pretty consistent from before this was created?
Yes, but I would say if you go on an individual basis, like Keegan Bradley being a great example, Keegan was a very good putter with the belly putter when that got banned. He had kind of a little bit of a valley, struggled for a bit. Aimpoint, I think, was a big factor in him starting to putt well again. So I think if you took it on a case-by-case basis, you'd see some guys definitely really improve from it. Other guys, it was probably negligible. I don't want to say some guys got worse, but I bet statistically some guys did get worse doing it. And that's kind of where I think it averages out, where he's saying statistically it hasn't helped anyone, but that's because it's helped some guys and it hasn't helped some guys, and that's where it averages out. But I think as a whole, it's average, but definitely for some guys, specifically Keegan, it's a major benefit.
I wanted to ask you about your work with players, because if you are on the PGA Tour, you know how to putt to some degree, right? Like, you don't get through the Korn Ferry Tour, you don't get through Q School. Like, how far off are these guys when they see you, and typically what do you look for in trying to help them?
It's all confidence for these guys, really, for all parts of their game, because they're all amazing players to get to the PGA Tour, to be a top 50 player in the world, whatever it is. They're all phenomenal. And it kind of goes back to talking with other coaches too. It's a lot of just being more efficient in practice, kind of how they practice, because obviously they know what to do, but it's just kind of managing what they need to do and getting that into an efficient plan. Because you'll see some guys just go around, hit random putts, and they never really kind of have any sort of plan to build off of or see what's going on. But the big thing that I've learned with guys is keeping guys in a good headspace, because obviously putting's so mental. You can hit 18 perfect putts in a round and miss 18 putts.
What I was going to say was, not only is it mental, but like, you know, I think during the pandemic, everyone got those like putting mats, and, you know, where it's like a dead straight 8-footer, and I can make 20 in a row on those. Like, so what would be your, like, what would be, that's true. They got a little track. But what would be your advice to amateurs who are watching this, who just want, like, obviously you need to see a stroke and everything is different, but what would be your piece of advice of like how someone watching this can go out there with more of a plan and improve their putting?
For the average golfer, like, working at home would be just get your setup right. Find out where your ball position is, how far from the ball, like put little sticks down, and because you can obviously have that set up on your putting mat, and getting into the same setup every time would help people. And then any sort of like a start line tool, like a putting plate, a Pels putting tutor, you could just put 2 tees down. Anything like that is going to instantly help the average player just become a more consistent putter.
Yeah, awesome. Potter's Putting. You couldn't have asked for a better last name for your line of work. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is cool. I am obsessed with golf Twitter. I know it's like Golf X now, but you guys just crack me up, and there's so many good tweets from people I know, people I don't know. And before we get into our last interview, probably our meatiest interview will be with Alan Shipnuck. Just wanted to run through some of the best comments, some of the best tweets I saw this week. We're going to start with this guy, Pete Tuna, who likes to comment on all my pictures or on my things saying this post reeks of D-Rap. Well, you're spot on, dude. It was posted by D-Rap. So good to know that my smell is coming through digitally. We got one from Willie Wilcox, one of just an absolute beauty. If you guys don't know Willie's story, played on the PGA Tour for 4 or 5 years, had some success, kept his card a couple times, finished second once with an opiate addiction the entire time. Mark Baldwin wrote an incredible story about this for the Fire Pit Collective. I did a video with him back when I was at Barstool. You should learn Willie's story. But now he's on Sungjae Im's bag, and he's one of my favorite follows. And this tweet, I hope we can bring it back up. He basically said, yeah, there it is. Happy to report there will be there's always a typo in there. Happy to report there will be astronomically less shenanigans this year at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. We have Kardashian level security with us. I love that thought of Willie Wilcox and Sungjae Im with Kardashian level security with us. My buddy Chris Powers is probably my favorite follow. Just very irreverent stuff. This is incredible. So Shane Lowry has aced incredible holes on the PGA Tour. He aced the 7 at Pebble Beach last week. He's aced 16 at Augusta National. He aced 17 at TPC Sawgrass. Oh, Chris posted the picture of for our audio audience of Derek Jeter's starting lineup, his dating diamond, and said, this is Shane Lowry's hole-in-one resume. We got Adriana Lima at second, Scarlett Johansson at shortstop, Vanessa, I don't know her last name, Hannah Davis at pitcher. Just incredible stuff from CP. That way, he wasn't done. He wasn't done this week. He had another one. Jordan Spieth had a bit of an adventure making par on the 11th hole, and it says, these edibles are weak as AF, man. And then 5 minutes later, you're next to a bush putting lefty. Terrific stuff from Chris Powers, as always. We did a new vlog on the Dan on Golf channel, which you go check out. We're going to be doing those pretty much every week we're on site. Not pretty much. We're going to do them every week we're on site. Talking to players, caddies, the Pro-Am. You know, there's always celebrities around. So we had Michael Phelps in the video. And Michael Phelps, we put him as a 28-time Olympian, which I don't think is the correct nomenclature. I think he's more like a 28-time medalist, but it says 28-time Olympian, dude, looking good for 100 plus. He does. Probably the first man over 100 years old to have a man bun. Our friends over at the Shotgun Start, some of the funniest guys on the internet, they were talking about Live Golf, and it didn't look like to be the most raucous crowd this week, but Lucas Glover still loudly yelled 4, despite there being exactly one person out there to dodge. But hey, he helped that person dodge it. And the last one, which is actually kind of like a thought experiment. So the 16th hole at Waste Management, it's really interesting. They build this whole city like around the tournament, but then they bring it down after the tournament. They keep it up for like one day less than however long they would have to pay taxes on it as a permanent structure. But I kind of agree with Will Novak here. Can someone please explain to me how it's not more cost effective to build a permanent stadium at TPC 16 than spending 9 months a year building and taking down this one? Plus, if it was permanent, you could monetize occasional other events. I think that's cool. You could have like, corporate events. You could have, little parties out there. There's definitely some Scotts Vegas ballers who would rent that out, bring all their friends, and give everyone the 16th hole experience. So that was Church from the Gallery. I love the internet. We're gonna finish with probably our meatiest interview. This is my journalism dad. This is Alan Shipnuck. He was at Sports Illustrated for 25 years. Just an incredible writer. I have so much respect for the books that he's written, because I've toyed with writing a book. It is so much work I can't even fathom, and he pumps them out. I'm also a little bit jealous that he existed in a time where you could just work on one story for the whole week, and that was your content. Meanwhile, I'm cranking out like TikToks, way more than anyone should post on TikTok. Alan, you joining us live on the line. Did you have it? Was it really nice back then when you could perfect a story?
So around the turn of the century, I made myself the European tour correspondent for Sports Illustrated and spent like 5 weeks on the company credit card in Italy, Spain, France, and Portugal. Stayed at 5-star hotels.
Writing one story?
One story, no internet. I mean, I caught the the tail end of the glory years of print, and it was delicious, and I miss it every day. But it's also nice to be productive. I do enjoy going to the majors now and pumping out 7 or 8 stories a week. But I'm not that old, but I'm a dinosaur. I came up before there was cell phones. You rock into a new town for a tournament, you'd have to go to the Hertz counter and get an actual map with a yellow highlighter and figure out how you're going to get to your hotel. Like it's funny how much it's all changed.
Yeah, it's changed quite a bit. And one of those changes is TGL. So, you've been around, you have a good perspective on this stuff. You've seen the tour, try to change things when Tiger came around, try to change things now with TGL. But I think we have a clip here of Tommy Fleetwood. Yeah, look, this happened in the last match. He flushed it. They just didn't pick it up. This is the worst nightmare. It went like 30 yards. And he handled it well, kind of looking over and laughing. But your overall thoughts on TGL and the technology issues, and does this thing have legs?
I've never been that interested in the TGL, but I'm not really the target demographic. You are, and your homies. I think it's fine. They were clever in that they picked sort of a dead part of the sports calendar. There's nothing else to watch on Monday or Tuesday nights in January and February and into March. And it's just mindless entertainment. It's not really competition. It's impossible to care who wins or who doesn't care. I don't know if there's going to be standings and playoffs. I mean, nobody cares about any of that. So when you take away the outcome from a sporting event, it loses all its seriousness. But I think it can be fun. It's better than watching, old Golden Girls reruns or something. Like it's golf. You get to see some cool shots. You get to hear a little banter. But
well, it's a way for them to get Tiger involved too, right? Like Tiger can't really play tournament golf.
Yeah, but I mean, what makes Tiger is that he would rise to the moment in the biggest tournaments in the world. He would make history. Like nothing he does in the TGL matters. And he's not that great on camera. I mean, you've been around him. He's kind of a nerd. He's kind of stiff. Like
I love you.
The idea
I don't
that
agree with
we're going to mic
anything
these guys up and that's going to carry the whole show is funny because most of them have no personality or no needle. So it's like, I don't object to it. If people are watching golf and enjoying golf when they normally wouldn't, I mean, that's good for everybody, but I can't pretend to be excited about it. And I don't know how much legs it has. There's so much money and juice behind it that it'll certainly endure. And the ratings haven't been terrible. So, I mean, it's going to be around, but I think to get fans to actually care about who wins or loses these matches, games. I don't know. That's a stretch.
Yeah, I have spent time around Tiger, but it was mostly Tiger 2.0. You were there. What was your first year on covering the tour?
94.
Yeah, so you were there even before Tiger. So, I wanted to ask you about this. I feel like you're the perfect person. So much written about his relationship with his dad. That is what everyone seems to focus on. But tell me about his relationship with his mom.
Yeah, Earl got all the credit for Tiger's mental toughness because, everyone knows he was a Green Beret and he'd play these mind games with Tiger when they were competing. But Tita was by far the fiercest personality in that family. She was the enforcer. She set the rules and she enforced them because Earl was kind of a softie. Like, Tiger couldn't touch a golf club until after he finished his homework. That was Tita's rule, and she enforced it. And she's the one who made it personal. If there was an older player who's more accomplished than Tiger, she got into his head about how he had to dominate that person. And even as Tiger made it to the tour, that still existed. And Tita loved to talk smack about Phil Mickelson and Davis Love and Greg Norman and all these people who Tiger quickly usurped. And Tita was the one who had the edge, and she was fiercely competitive and protective of her son. And she didn't really do many interviews. Her English wasn't great. She was born and raised in Thailand, as a lot of people know. And I don't think she ever got credit for being, this driving force in his career and his life. And you saw it after Earl's death, how she was there for Tiger during the scandal and everything that followed. And she kind of started to get her due, but on the Mount Rushmore of sports parents, I would put Tita there and not Earl.
Wow. Giving her some flowers. Yeah, I mean, this really hit like a gut punch. I mean, like you said, you wrote a book on Phil. I think we got a picture here of the cover. Phil, the rip-roaring biography of golf's most colorful superstar. And I wanted, the response to this was of Tiger's death was, of Tiger's mother's death was one of sympathy. It's like switched that way, right? Like Phil used to be the one that everyone pulled for and kind of like almost felt bad for. Tiger was, I don't know if a villain is the right word, but he was so incredible. He didn't let really people in. Do you feel like there's been a shift in kind of public opinion on these two guys?
Yeah, I would say for a long time, Tiger was revered and Phil was beloved. And
those are different.
That's very different emotions. And Phil, with his hijinks around Live Golf and, the insider trading and a lot of other things, has clearly lost a lot of sympathy, a lot of empathy. He still has his supporters, but they're not as vocal and there's not as many as there used to be. And, Tiger, for all he's accomplished on the golf course, I mean, he's been through it, right? With tabloid scandal, divorce, sex addiction therapy, painkiller addiction, a single car accident that under very suspicious circumstances, leaked dick pics. I mean, you name it. Like everything that could happen to a human, Tiger has been through, and yet he still endures. And so I think he does have a lot of sympathy surrounding him. It's human nature that, we root for a comeback, and he gave it to us at the Masters in 2019. The last 5 years have been messy, but he's still here. The fact that he clearly loves being a dad and seems to be a very good dad and very dedicated to his kids, that softened a lot of hearts. And this leadership role that Tiger's taken on in this battle with Live Golf, kind of rallying the top players on the PGA Tour and flying the flag for tradition. And that's gotten a lot of people back on his side. So I don't think there's any question that if you did an approval rating like they do with presidents, Tiger's would be much higher than Phil's. And the irony, of course, is that Phil's he's never really had a scandal pop the way Tiger has. I mean,
I don't know. You fucked him up pretty good with those quotes.
Well, he was guilty of hubris and greed, but he didn't break any laws. He's never had to go to court like Tiger. He's never been caught with, cocktail waitresses and porn actresses.
Okay, you're going hard on the guy now.
This is all in the public record, Dan. These are not my opinions. These are just facts. And Phil's no angel, but he's kept it all behind the scenes. And so it's just interesting that the public feelings are so much softer for Tiger than Phil, because if you make a list of their woes, Tiger's is a heck of a lot longer.
What does the future hold for Phil? I mean, he's going to be 55 in June. He withdrew from the event this week. You know, I think he's played like 30-something live events. His best finish is tied for 6th. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that he finished 2nd at the Masters, but, 55, we're starting to really ask a lot for a player. Is he too far gone? Once this all comes back, and we're going to talk about that in a second, is he too far gone to be welcomed back? Is the Ryder Cup captaincy now just out the window?
Yeah, that and the ceremonial starter at the Masters, like it was ordained, him and Tiger were going to be the ceremonial starters. They were going to be the Jack and Arnie for decades. That all was lined up perfectly.
You don't think though, you don't think he can come back?
I think he can if this whole thing gets put back together and peace reigns in the golf world. Phil will largely be vindicated because everything he was advocating for has come true. Players would get a bigger piece of the pie. They'd have more say in their
players
governance.
like him.
Of course, they would have more control of their media rights. These were Phil's main talking points, going back to that freighted phone call with me and all the way through. The things he was pushing for behind the scenes and then publicly have all come true, and he's made a lot of players a ton of money. And so the players have a grudging respect for Phil. I think fans are still mad because he was the guy in the middle of all of it, and he's really the agent of change, for better and for worse, that gets blamed for this fracture in the golf world. Now, if we can put the game back together, if all your favorite players are playing on the tour again, including Phil, I think there will be a softening, and maybe he can get back in the good graces of the powers that be. The Ryder Cup captaincy, he's getting a little older now. There's clearly been this change in philosophy going with a younger playing captain and Keegan, potential playing captain. That ship may have sailed, but Augusta National, he was still 10 or 15 years away from that ceremonial first tee. So that would be the ultimate olive branch. And it'll be really fascinating to see if it ever gets extended. You also wrote a book about LIV called Live and Let Die, the inside story of the war between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. So you're as close to this, you're as sourced on this as anyone. What's going on with the LIV contracts? Because this is the 4th year, which I think guys sign like mostly 3 or 4 year contracts. Like, are they allowed to play other events? Are they going to have to continue to play LIV events? Are they negotiating those right now? Yeah, that's all happening in real time. I mean, they've always been allowed to play. The LIV stance is you owe us 14 tournaments, and then you do whatever you want the rest of the time. Right, and that's what they said at the beginning. Like, we're not banning anyone. If the tour would let you, you could go play. Yeah, and you've seen that with Joaquin Niemann and others. They play all over the world, and that's Niemann's done a great job. That's how he's sort of kicked the door down at the majors, by just showing that passion. And so they can certainly go heavy in Asia and in Europe. That's never been precluded. But yes, there is some feverish negotiations going on because most of the big contracts are 4 years, a few were 5, but those are all going to come due soon. And, a guy like Bubba Watson, you can lose him. No one cares. Phil can transition into being a playing captain. That doesn't affect anything at LIV Golf. In fact, he'd be better as actually not even a playing captain, just as a captain. Hang up the sticks, be a part of the telecast. Like, that would be a great role for Phil. So you can lose some of those guys. No one's going to miss the Graham McDowells, but Brooks and especially Bryson are the key. Bryson. Well, Bryson's the biggest star, but Brooks gives him so much credibility. Unfortunately, Dustin, his play in the majors has been so bad ever since he joined LIV. No one's going to really notice if he disappears, but it's about Bryson and it's about Brooks and Rahm. Yeah, but he's a newer deal. He's locked in. Right. So his contract's not coming up for a long time. But they're going to have to come to Jesus on Bryson and Brooks because they go back to the summer 22. So and now they have. I mean, Yashir and the Public Investment Fund, they don't want to keep pumping hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, we saw it with the off season this year, right? Yeah, they signed nobody. They signed some people, but not the same quality. We hear online that Xander's going and Tony Finau's going. It didn't happen. No, I mean they didn't get an A-list player. They didn't get a B-list player. I mean, so that gives Bryson and Brooks huge leverage. And if LIV loses those two guys, it's over. And so it'll be really interesting to see. This is a moment of inflection for Yasir. Like, The fact that I'm sure when the framework agreement was announced 20 months ago, you thought it was all going to be done and dusted. You never imagined he was going to be negotiating with these guys where the future of LIV was at stake. So it just continues to be messy and fascinating. And I honestly think this has been part of Monahan.
How old are you, dude?
Yeah, I'm so old. I told you I started covering the game in '94.
That's the year I was born.
Yeah, that's terrifying. Monahan, Tiger, Cantlay, and Spieth, who are kind of running things for the tour, they've been slow playing this on purpose because they've game planned this, and they know that the longer this drags out, it tilts back towards the tour, the advantage in these negotiations, because these contracts run out. Guys are antsy, guys are unhappy on LIV, and so they've for all the talk about slow play on the PGA Tour, they've been happy to do that in these negotiations, and that's given them some leverage in this. So
yeah. That's a really interesting, because it was like there was a minute there, like after Rahm went, where it was like the tour is one player away from like things really like collapsing, and what you're saying is like it's actually LIV now that has more at stake.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you saw like Eugenio Chacarra, when his contract expired, he started speaking truth to power, and he let it rip. And LIV's worst nightmares for all these guys' contracts to run out. They're no longer bound by the confidentiality clause. They can say whatever they want about everything, and it's going to get messy. It's going to get noisy, and so they've got to keep these guys in the fold. It's great. It would seem like a win that the LIV got the Fox Sports deal, but then you saw the numbers on Fox Sports too. And everyone cooks the books on these numbers. I never know what to believe anymore. Yeah. Because there's streaming, there's not streaming, but that 12,000 figure that was thrown around, whether it was true or not, was like so devastating, because it felt like this was a new chapter for LIV. They're finally on a real network, and they played under the lights to try and make the TV times work better, and it was just like a fart in church. And so I don't know. I've given LIV the benefit of the doubt from the very beginning. I've always treated it as a serious endeavor, but here we are in year 4. They still can't find an audience. They're still struggling to find good venues. They're more or less pulling up stakes in the entire United States market and playing internationally, which makes sense from a perspective of getting a local crowd and maybe getting some rights fees from those cable regions, but makes it even harder to draw American audience. And it just feels rudderless. They couldn't sign any players this year. I mean, this is do or die, like these negotiations. If they can find a pathway for their players back on the tour, if they can create 4 or 8 spots for tour players to come over and play in the LIV events and add some juice to it, I think LIV can find a way forward. But it just feels like it's lost a lot of momentum.
My last question for you: there's rumors you're working on a new book. I don't know if you've announced it. Can you tell us?
Yeah, it hasn't been a big splash announcement, but people know.
Well, let's splash it. Let's make a splash. You're writing a book about Rory.
Yes, about Rory McIlroy, who is undeniably the most interesting player of the post-Tiger era, and he's getting more interesting. The heartbreak at Pinehurst, the continuing off-course drama. He's had a big life. He's been Rory, like, you have to measure his age in dog years. He's been playing for so long, and so much has happened. And he's on this endless quest to finally redeem his whole career and achieve his potential and win these majors that have eluded him for 11 years, which is absolutely mind-boggling. And I just think he's a fascinating character. We know he's a great talker. He's a pretty deep thinker. He's become a little more polarizing. And so I think Rory is really the only modern player who could actually carry a book as far as the scope of his life, the depth of his thinking, and the passion that he kind of inflames. So it's a fun project. I've had a lot of phone calls in Ireland. I wake up in California.
It's a big
I start calling people in Ireland. It's 5, 6 p.m. and they're very chatty. And so it's been a lot of fun. And of course, I'm talking to people on the PGA Tour and on LIV. And Rory, he creates emotion. That's why the Phil book worked, because love him or hate him, Phil evokes emotion. And I think Rory's in that same camp now.
Absolutely. I can't wait to read it. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr.
Wait, don't try and end this yet. I just want to say congratulations on the show. I think this is super cool that you're doing this. You've made yourself the Johnny Carson of professional golf. I remember when you were a little grasshopper on the beat, you had no clue, just a little poo butt out there. And I'm proud of you, and I'm excited this is happening. So way to go.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. We'll see you again soon, I'm very sure. Yep. That pretty much does it here for the first episode of Dan on Golf. I can't thank all of you enough for watching this. I can't thank the Pro Shot team enough. Chad Mumm, Derek King, Ben Boscovich, Johnny Weichel, helping this become a reality. Just incredible work from the control room. We're going to continue getting better with this show. You guys are golf sickos. I'm a golf sicko. That was just too much fun. We're going to do it all again next week, and we're going to leave you. We're going to do a clip of the week, and I don't think it's possible to have a better clip than the Backstreet Boys in Saudi Arabia.
Everybody, live golf's back, all right.